So Microsoft decided to drop a bombshell last week. Out of nowhere, at the Game Awards of 2019, we were granted a first glimpse at the Xbox Series X, their next generation console. Along with a visually impressive and impactful trailer of Hellblade 2, which quickly worked its way up to the top of my most anticipated games list, Phil Spencer cleverly managed to surprise everyone and, more importantly, beat his big rival to the punch. It may not have felt like it to anyone yet, but now the realization is kicking in that we are on the verge of a very exciting time. In 2020, the next generation officially kicks off. So much had already been confirmed. What will start as a crowded year in terms of game releases, with publishers stacking one highly anticipated title on top of the other just to get them out of the door in time, will end with two major platform holders battling it out to either retain or regain the crown. The ball is in PlayStation's court now. As far as the PS5 goes, they obviously do have the advantage. They're coming off of an incredibly successful generation, possessing not only the highest current player base, but a reliable first-party network that is on top of their game. Potential mistakes can never be counted out, but the general objective seems easy to guess: maintain the lead by sticking to the same winning strategy. In this video, we'll go over what that strategy should look like, using both the past and what we know now to predict PlayStation's upcoming roadmap for 2020. When will the PS5 be revealed? What is the plan regarding the rollout of information? What should we expect in terms of pricing, features, a concrete release date, and of course, which games are we about to see announced? As we approach the start of a new generation, lots of leaks and rumors are expected to shape the conversation in advance. Codenames, dev kit pictures, and patent documents for the next PlayStation can already be found scattered across the internet. Nevertheless, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's noticed the talk around Sony's new console seems strangely different than ever before. Not in the first place because, in fact, its existence had already been acknowledged. In the last year, the platform holder has generously provided us with information spread across two Wired articles detailing features such as ray tracing and backwards compatibility, the built-in SSD, 4K Blu-ray player, and the unsurprising name PS5, as well as release window, fall 2020 to keep in mind. So, despite the fact that we are still waiting for an official unveil event to take place, Sony is playing with relatively open cards. While from the outside it appears as a curious new tactic, if you'd ask me, I think it tells us a lot about how differently the company views this next transition compared to the one we had before. Because, to put things into perspective, let's briefly go back in time to 2013. It marked a turning point for the brand, coming off of a troublesome phase with the PS3 as a result of arrogancy. A $600 price tag, a system hard to develop for, tactless statements in the media, and a limited list of games to support the console, it would take Sony years to recover from the mess they had created, and even then they had only partially done so. While several reversions and a strong list of exclusive titles allowed them to catch up by the end of the generation, the fact remained that they had failed to maintain the unapproachable success of their prior consoles. Thankfully, the company was very much aware of it and intended to change that. You know, as I wrote down my thoughts for this video, I was brought back to that particular evening. It was gonna be just another school day on the 1st of February. I remember getting ready to head to bed when at exactly 12 AM a cryptic video passed my Twitter timeline. Posted by the official PlayStation account, it showed the 4 familiar symbols and teased a special event, claiming we were about to see the future. Having closely witnessed news and rumors ramp up in prior months and eagerly anticipating the announcement I felt was imminent, I knew exactly what time it was. 20 days later, the company would officially unveil the PlayStation 4. Within a discreet setting, a small venue only offering room for a limited group of journalists and live streaming the entire show, Andrew House shared the greater vision that inspired the designs and goals behind the PS4. Moreover, he invited a couple of guests on stage to extensively elaborate on these ideas. This new generation finally allowed them to hit the reset button, doing away with the complicated cell processor in return for a traditional PC architecture. But that wasn't everything. Sony showed that they had truly thought deeply about where the future of gaming itself should go and introduced a new user interface, social functionalities based around its share button, PlayStation Now streaming service, the drastically redesigned DualShock 4, and they had rekindled partnerships with major publishers like Blizzard. Most importantly, the overarching message emphasized how they finally let go of the living room mentality that had plagued the PS3 so much to target gamers and gamers alone. This presentation focused so much on interesting conceptual innovations, was unafraid to have lead architect Mark Cerny speak for a good 20 minutes about the historical conventions of gaming and how the PS4 intended to change these principles around. You know, it's a shame really how this conference served probably as vital of a role in the comeback as it is sadly unremembered by most people. Because fast forward to today and you'll understand that the situation now couldn't be further from it. Nearly 7 years later, PlayStation is dominating the console market once again, which means that out of the two platform holders, they should have the least interest to send players out to buy a new system. Shortly said, the goal has shifted. This next transition won't be about starting from scratch. It won't be about introducing fundamental improvements to the platform. PlayStation will want to make it as smooth of a process as they can. Everything we've learned about the hardware so far reinforces this certain mindset. PlayStation was quick to talk about backwards compatibility in the very first Wired article, suggesting that your entire PS4 library should carry over to make the jump to PS5 a no-brainer for anyone already invested in the ecosystem. Some of its other key goals appear to be decreasing load times with an SSD and equipping the controller with adaptive triggers and haptics for more immersive feedback. Just this week, a back buttons attachment was first shown for PS4 controllers. Despite appearing a little bit bulky, I wonder if this hints at the PS5 controller having back buttons built in, therefore causing the need for this more cumbersome DualShock 4 variant in order to make controllers fully forwards compatible. Obviously, an improved GPU and CPU will finally allow for the graphical leap that the PS4 Pro couldn't quite deliver on, while terms like ray tracing and 8K sound ambitious on paper but are less likely to be backed up by visuals. As far as compatibility, crossplay and offering several console versions goes, Microsoft has forced Sony to face interesting dilemmas when it comes to the business model, more so than Sony would probably like to admit. The name Xbox Series X seems to confirm the rumors of an entry-level version yet to be announced in the coming year, which will probably be called the Series S. For decades, manufacturers have always had to make a trade-off between leading in raw power or having the cheaper priced system, but using this strategy, Microsoft may as well possess both at once this time. The bigger question is, will Sony feel inclined to follow along? Are we gonna see a Pro and a less Pro version from the jump, or will the PS5 only come in the form of a single model? Personally, I'd lean towards the latter, with the PS4 still treated as the cheaper alternative, but not able to play the next-gen games. One thing is for sure, judging by everything we know so far, the PS5 Mark Cerny talked about sounds like a powerful one, likely to compete head-to-head with Series X at around $500. But now that Xbox Series X has officially been shown to the world, the next move is on PlayStation. Traditionally, there are a few events throughout the year where we expect the company to make announcements, with of course E3 at the center of it all. Even though PlayStation could afford to skip out on it last year, doing so now would be taking an unnecessarily high risk. With the launch of a new console, with Microsoft and every other publisher saving their biggest reveals for June, gamers will be counting on Sony's presence, and rightfully so. All in all, expect fireworks. Now, Jim Ryan has never proven the most beloved personality to the PlayStation audience, and with both Andrew House and Sean Layden gone, newly assigned head of Worldwide Studios Herman Hulst is who I would consider the prime candidate to present the majority of the show. From the games, the system's physical design, pricing and the concrete release date, all this information is bound to be made public here, just like it was last time. But E3 will be another 6 months away from us, so where will we see the PS5 first? It's a hard question to answer, because the reality is, who the hell actually knows? A reveal event around February is what is most assumed by people online, but whether they actually possess the content to hold yet another insightful 2-hour talk remains unclear to me. Conceptually, we've heard of very few truly new features, because let's face it, how much more is there to request out of the PS4 as it is? So far, the interesting new ideas were also kept to a minimum in Wired's articles, other than being able to separately install single-player or multiplayer components to save some hard drive space, and a vague description of a new user interface that better keeps you informed on missions or activities that are available without having to boot up each individual game beforehand. It's a matter of logically looking at the potential innovations PS5 will bring and coming to the conclusion that they likely won't be as groundbreaking. A conference similar to the PS4 announcement could therefore indeed be out of the picture, especially because most information regarding hardware specs Sony has already decided to give away. I think what Microsoft did was very smart. They realized this and chose the Game Awards, not only as a very logical option for them, but one that would still create a real surprise. However, no matter if it's via State of Play, a self-organized event, or a trailer randomly dropped online, our first glance at the PS5 is imminent now, so stay on the lookout. The far bigger mystery for now remains which new titles will be out to accompany the PS5's release. On the first-party side, realistically it's safe to say that studios like Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch and Kojima Productions will be lurking in the shadow for a while. I am positive that their respective titles, in The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding, will receive patches day and date with the launch to entice hardcore fans with visually upgraded and higher frame rate versions of their favorite games. To make the package complete and immediately show off PS5's new capabilities, they will benefit from the faster loading times and will probably implement the supposed new features, so that while you trudge away out of a BT-infested zone as Sam Porter bridges, you'll actually feel that resistance in your analog sticks. Alongside of these games, I hope we'll also see similar updates for the popular releases throughout this generation, so that classics, whether third-party or exclusive like Bloodborne, Uncharted 4, Spider-Man and God of War, can also be enjoyed in an entirely new way. It's what will already make the PS5 an easy sell at launch for the dedicated gamer. But naturally, new releases are what we will talk about the most. When it comes to these, there are a number of studios to keep in sight. For example, Bluepoint already seems like a guarantee. There is a reason they were specifically interviewed in the latest PS5 article, calling their next project the most ambitious one yet. Interestingly, multiple recent teasers on social media point to not one, but two remakes possibly being in the works, with candidates ranging from Demon's Souls to The Legend of Dragoon, Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid, who is honestly to say. Guerrilla Games' next project is easier to guess, as I don't have the slightest doubt Horizon Zero Dawn is going to receive a sequel. However, going by several job listings, a multiplayer-related component appears to be in the works as well. Whether it's an online mode for Horizon, a new kill zone, or something else entirely is yet to be seen. Sean Layden had previously already hinted at PlayStation planning to increase focus on multiplayer experiences, and a small standalone Last of Us Online project teased by Naughty Dog may be perfect to fill the void at launch as well. Other than these projects, Japan Studio is known to be a big team and usually has something in the pipeline to help a new PlayStation platform out. They've been quiet since making Astro Bot Rescue Mission for VR in 2018, so I expect a completely new title to be ready in November. Our deep prayers for Knack 3 may at last be heard, but it's probably more reasonable to expect a new IP. Furthermore, with Sony's recent acquisition of Insomniac, I'm curious if all resources were automatically put on the next Spider-Man, or if a new Ratchet & Clank could come out first instead. And now that Sony shut down Drive Club developer Evolution Studios, Polyphony must be gearing up to satisfy racing fans with Gran Turismo 7. These are all exclusive titles which you can expect to arrive either at launch or in the year that will follow. However, the big open secret you would easily forget about is the new San Diego team, now formed at least 1.5 years back. Numerous previous workers at Naughty Dog have moved to this new studio, and the rumors indicate an Uncharted reboot is actually planned to be announced at some point in the future. Then again, they had to start from scratch and build this team from the ground up, while the time doesn't seem quite right to announce Uncharted's return yet, so something tells me we won't be hearing from them anytime soon. Still, I would make sure to keep them in the back of your head. Now, when it comes to the obvious sequels, like I said, I think it's a little too early for the next Spider-Man as well as God of War. Insomniac and Sony Santa Monica may tease them nonetheless, merely as a promise for gamers to buy the system in preparation. Cory Barlog has also acted somewhat mysteriously as of late, sparking discussion whether Santa Monica could be working on a new sci-fi IP alongside. Whatever happens, I think it's safe to say all these projects will be at the soonest released in the second year come PS5's launch. Lastly, we recently got wind of a significant shift in worldwide studios, with Shuei Yoshida now leading a big new indie-focused initiative. Like we saw during E3 2013, Sony may give back the spotlight to some of these smaller games to fill up an additional 10 minutes of their E3 presentation with the most promising projects Shu can find. Third-party wise, there is a number of potential candidates to definitely keep your eyes on. We've been waiting for so long now to hear news out of Rocksteady, who've been quiet ever since the release of Batman Arkham Knight all the way back in 2015, as well as Ready at Dawn, whose next AAA project has been in development since about the same point in time. I've said it before, I still hold out hope for a potential sequel to the Order 1886 that can finally do justice to the huge potential the original game could sadly not deliver on. But even if it turns out to be an entirely new IP, I'm sure it'll get me excited, as I simply have a lot of faith in this talented studio. Of course, it's very possible Sony may partner up with some of these developers, making deals to add more exclusive content to the first year lineup. Speaking of these partnerships, From Software is obviously another one. Elden Ring may be coming up first, but the studio is known to work on several projects at once. Bloodborne 2 could prove to be huge, instantly securing several millions of hardcore fans who wouldn't be able to resist saying no. Additionally, there will naturally be support on day one from the usual suspects in Activision, EA, Ubisoft, etc. Though for me the yearly FIFA, Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed aren't nearly as exciting anymore to discuss. Another problem with the major mainstream franchises is that they'll be developed with both generations in mind, so don't hold your breath for these franchises to truly take advantage of the new hardware for at least another while. Concretely, the message I expect to be sent out in the coming year is one fully centered on the core PlayStation gamer, inviting and encouraging them to make a transition emphasized to be solely met with exciting benefits. Current PS4 games should effortlessly carry over, whether physically or digitally owned, and will await you to be re-experienced with increased graphical fidelity and new features to form the definitive versions. Highly improved load times, a true visual leap, and a couple of other small but effective design decisions will drastically impact your experience. In terms of new games, the next Horizon, Sony Japan game, and a fantastic looking remake of a hugely popular classic by Bluepoint will be accompanied by full support from third parties. And lastly, a few new IP and sequels to critically acclaimed titles will form the promise for a very bright future, all the while making sure not to fully abandon the current PS4 gamer as of yet. Although the strategy is unlikely to have upcoming exclusives be playable across both generations, as Sony understands their crucial value to stay in the dominant position, the older console will obviously continue to receive online support, as well as games from external publishers who will want to provide for both markets to make the most profit. In the end, what else is there to say? Exciting times are ahead of us. What thrills me the most is the realization that what transpires in the upcoming year will lay the foundation for a whole new generation. And while everything we've discussed so far is mere speculation, one thing is clear: we won't have too much longer to go now, before the real plan begins to unfold. Thanks everybody for watching my new video on the PlayStation 5. I actually wanted to make a quick little announcement myself, being that I've started a second channel called the Robin Gaming Archive. Now that I am fully focused on these high quality, in-depth discussion videos, I'll be using the new channel for the type of content I used to make. Trailer reactions, Twitch playthroughs, and even some gaming news discussions will be uploaded there, so if that is something you're interested in, then please check it out. I've linked it on top of the description and in front of the video right now. With that being said, if you enjoy everything I make, please check out the Patreon page, where for just $1 of support you get early access to every video, while helping me continue making all of this stuff for you. Thanks a lot for watching.